Another thing they did was the coastal management plan, and the coastal management plan locks up the whole coastline and talks about 0.85 metre sea level rises between now and 2100 and something. And so what they said was, if you're in that area, we're going to map you now at 0.85 a metre higher now, because one day it will be that high, even though I think the science out a little bit. We all know global warming's happening, but will it go up 0.85? It's based on modelling. It's modelling for 100 years. There's a lot of assumptions. And what they did was they applied a thing called the Coastal Management Plan. And I think it would have actually been against the development you're talking about, because there was anything in a coastal region, and that sounds very coastal what you're talking about. And what it did was it said, look, if this area with 0.85 metre sea level on it is going to be problematic, like at risk, at danger, blah, 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 right, of inundation, then we won't allow it, unless you've already got an approval in place. And so those sort of things don't often have approvals in place. They take many, many years to get the approvals. And even if you had a preliminary approval, you didn't have a development permit. It was a development permit you could develop, not a preliminary approval that just gave the zoning. So the zoning was okay for a marina perhaps, but the coastal management plan said, look, no, at risk, a problem. So when LNP got in 3 years ago, everyone was up in arms about all this land that got shut down in Queensland, right? All the people who own the land, obviously the investors. So they were saying to the LNP, look guys, this is wrong, you've got to stop that, right? But of course the LNPs will be very careful, they can't just be unenvironmental, so they just put a moratorium on that coastal management plan. So if your development put its thing in that 3 years and got the approval, then that's it. But right now that coastal management plan's on its way back in. So if you've got coastal land that's going to be potentially in trouble with a 0.85 metre sea level rise, and believe me, that's all of Townsville, all of Runaway Bay on the Gold Coast, like it's a lot of land. If you've got stuff in there, make sure you're looking at that coastal management plan. Another reason why you'd speak to us before you buy a property, because if you're going to get mapped at risk, at danger, basically you're not allowed to do any increase in risk on that land. So if you've got a 4-bedroom house, the coastal management plan is so strong that you can't put a 5th bedroom on it, because a 5th bedroom will intensify the development on that site and therefore put the occupants at risk, because there could be extra people living there. So it's that intense. So childcare centres, that could be a bad thing, because we're going to have 100 kids there now. How are we going to evacuate them with sea level rises? Right, now these sea level rises aren't even happening yet, but they're mapped for 100 years' time. So this plan takes all this into account, and it's a state government plan.